In October of 1994, three student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found. Hello, folks. Welcome back to my channel. This is Horror Town, and I have another horror movie review for you. And this time, I will be doing it on an absolute classic. One of the horror films that revolutionized the whole genre. And this movie is none other than the Blair Witch Project. Yes, you guessed it right. Or rather, you just had a look at the movie poster right in front of you for the review that I decided to use. So, the Blair Witch Project. I think that this is a movie whose reputation precedes it. So, there's not really much I can say about it, but I will anyway because this is review time, and heck, why not? So, the Blair Witch Project is a 1999 American psychological horror film, according to Wikipedia. I'm reading off there. Written, directed, and edited by Daniel Merrick and Eduardo Sanchez, according to Wikipedia. So this is a found footage film. For those who haven't watched for those of you who are not very familiar with this concept, it's basically a movie that is taking place, that is recorded, shot, with a camera, and basically the whole movie is seen through the lens of the camera, right? So hence we get the term found footage film. This is pretty much what it is. So this is a found footage film, one of the first ones, I believe, one of the earlier ones, since it was released in 1999, which is about 10 years before Paranormal Activity, which is another, series of found footage films. But this is one of the first ones, and I have to say that this is the best one I've ever seen in my life, right? The Blair Witch Project is definitely my favorite found footage film of all time, especially since it's one of the first ones to have been, made this way, formatted in such a way. But it is so awesome, and I've really, really enjoyed watching and rewatching it over and over again, and it still scares me to this day. It doesn't matter. The movie hasn't aged a day, in my opinion. It is still pretty much holds up to this very day with some awesome, scary, horrifying jump scares, right? And really, really terrifying, sequences, terrifying scenes, scary, very, very scary occurrences in the film, throughout the film. So what is this movie about? So basically, I kind of mentioned this just by reading the little, tagline at the beginning, on the movie poster that you can see right there. It's basically, to put it in a nutshell what this movie is about. So we have our film students named Heather, Mike, and Josh, who are going to be kind of working on some documentary film about something called the Blair Witch, right? And it's some kind of a myth, slash legend, that they're going to be trying to, dig up some information about. I apologize for this sound in the background. I know that might seem, a little bit irritating, but I'm hoping that through my review, my loud speech, I can drown it out a little bit. But yeah, just wanted to apologize a little bit. So, yes, so they're going to be kind of working on this Blair Witch, kind of, going into the woods and in some city named Burkittsville in Maryland. They're going to be traveling there and kind of asking the residents for some comments, for some, testimony as to their experiences with that, about what they think, about, some personal stories that happened to them, which they would want to share with the students. And basically, they all kind of give their own kind of stories, their own kind of testimonies as to what they think and what they've seen, what they experienced. And then, it's basically pretty much like, it's set like this. You have the the people talking, to the camera. And I think that this was a pretty good way to kind of have the movie. I really like this kind of format, where you have all these people talking and then the camera kind of follows the students. I have to say that this was such an awesome way to begin the film, right? It's so good, right? Like an actual documentary, especially in that time, 1989. It is so good. It goes so smoothly. And then basically we move on and we are left with the students, and they're going to be going down into the woods to kind of do more work and try to basically, you know, gather more evidence for their documentary, for their story, whatever you're gonna call it. And they're gonna be going to hike to that place called Coffin Rock, which holds some kind of a story, which I won't mention too much here because I don't want to spoil too much anything. And it's so gruesome that I don't want my video to be censored or anything like this. I think that yeah, it's pretty gruesome, this whole story. But I wouldn't do it anyway because I don't want to spoil the movie too much or anything. I'm not gonna be censored. I don't think I would be if I were to mention this, but I won't. Just so that I don't spoil too much. But basically, they're gonna be camping in the night, at night in those woods, and then they're gonna notice some very very strange occurrences. Some very strange events are gonna ensue, especially some kerns, right? And those who don't know, kerns are like these I don't even know what they are really. I think they're these kinds of rock kind of formations or something like this, and they're shaped in such a way that is pretty scary, I guess, terrifying. Kerns, Cairns, right? So that's what they're called. And they're kind of left in the woods here and there, and they're really, actually, they're kind of like rock formations that they're going to find at some point, in the beginning of the movie and then later on. And they don't really know what to make of it. So actually, it's near some kind of a graveyard. It is within the graveyard, I think. Yes, they find, I'm reading off Wikipedia, I apologize, find an old graveyard with 7 small cairns. And yeah, so basically it's in the graveyard. I apologize for that. I'm confused, I'm mixing up with something else. So basically they find these cairns and they don't really, they kind of try to find out more about it, but yeah, it's pretty, unsettling. And then something happens. I won't gonna spoil too much or anything. But then later on, they're gonna, obviously at night, they're gonna hear some strange noises, some strange sounds, about with including snapping sticks and things of that nature, which they can't really, obviously they're in the woods, so it's kind of to be expected, some animals, some, wildlife, especially at night in those woods. But then later on, it becomes more and more. It gets scarier and scarier as you go on, So, it could be something else as well altogether. So then after that, they decide to go back to the car, to hike back. But, and here's the big kind of, twist, for lack of better terms. They find out that, they kind of lost, right, in the woods. And they cannot find their way back to safety to the car. And it seems that they are just going in circles. So they're going to camp for many, many nights. And as the nights go on, it's going to get scarier and scarier. More scary noises, more scary occurrences involving at some point what seems to be children, At some point, even their tents seem to shake as if somebody is trying to, do something, kind of trying to break into the tent. So it gets pretty terrifying, for lack of better terms. It's absolutely scary. And then later on, as we near the end of the movie, you have the movie poster where you have Heather kind of apologizing to her family and the families of her, of her of her 2 fellow students, college students. She basically makes an apology, and this adds to the kind of fear that we feel as we go on with this movie. that we find out that they're really stuck and there's nothing they can do about it, right? And yeah, it gets pretty, ary, scary, terrifying as you go on up until the very last scene near the end with a big final twist. So the Blair Witch Project is an absolute masterpiece in horror. It's a stroke of genius. I loved it. I absolutely enjoyed the heck out of it. It is so terrifying and so scary. And as you go on, the acting is so well done because you really, really you're convinced by it. These three. Let me tell you about the actors right here. So we have Heather Donahue who plays, herself, basically fictionalized version of herself anyway. Heather. Then we have Joshua Leonard who plays a fictionalized version of himself. Josh, he's just referred to as Josh in the movie. And finally, we have Michael C. Williams, who plays a fictionalized version of himself. Mike, this is how he's called. The fact that they kept their real names was pretty good, in my opinion, because I think it makes the whole identification, the whole, you know, identifying with the characters easier for us. I didn't even know that much about it, that they played their actual selves, their fictionalized versions anyway. But I think that this was pretty good, to have them mention each other, to refer to each other by name as they are named. I thought that this was pretty good. But this movie is absolutely awesome, and it really plays in the kind of psychological fear that one feels, especially this whole notion of entrapment, being stuck in the woods, in the forest, and it's so scary. And especially, they're gonna notice these weird kind of, sticks, stick figures, in the woods that are gonna be hanging down the woods. And I think that this was the one of the most terrifying scenes of the movie, with the whole kind of stick figures that are just hanging down like this. This would definitely creep me out, right? And I haven't gone camping, that much or at all actually, but I'd really like to. But definitely, after having watched this movie, I can definitely understand that this definitely scared people away from trying, from camping, just like Jaws scared people away from the sea. So, yeah, The Blair Witch Project is an absolute masterpiece in horror. I really loved this film up until the very end. The way the tension builds up, it's so good. It's so good, and definitely has, at some point, the characters, you can really feel that they're afraid, they're scared, and this whole notion of entrapment is really real. That they're going in circles, they can find their way back, and they basically start to freaking out. There's going to be a scene involving a map, which I thought was pretty kind of weird and silly even, but in light of what happens, you can feel the frustration of the characters, that they are basically, just, stuck, and there's nothing much they can do, and to the point where they're basically going to kind of, be resolved to their fate, right? To the fact that, they messed up by going there, and that now they're going to have to pay the price, right? All of them. And that they might never get back, which is the scene that is basically, symbolized by Heather making this short apology where she basically apologizes to the families, and she basically accepts, she takes responsibility for it. This is the scene that is very hard to watch, and the fear that you feel in that scene is real, right? Especially when you watch this movie, it's found footage, so it makes it so easier to believe in what you're seeing, right? To be, it's like you're your fourth character within the movie itself, just the viewer, and you have to basically, you have to accept everything, you have to, whatever happens, there's no way to change that, and you're just a helpless, viewer who's just watching as the events unfold, right? And since it's found footage film, I don't really know who found the video. I don't even believe that it's been, mentioned, or something like this, alluded to. But basically, yes, they're just lost in the woods. And the very last scene where you have a scene involving some kind of a house. I don't want to spoil too much or anything, but, this is kind of important, relevant. It's definitely terrifying. and you're gonna have a big final twist, and the way it ends with that big cliffhanger was awesome. So, and very terrifying. So the Blair Witch Project is awesome. I didn't mention this, but the movie takes place during Halloween. In and around Halloween, it's October 1984, and you can tell as you begin the movie, you have these houses with the Halloween decorations, the jack-o'-lanterns, the pumpkins. So it's a little bit like Halloween-ish kind of vibe. So it's definitely a good time to watch now if you haven't already, or if you'd like to rewatch it. I just rewatched it a few days ago, and I finished it yesterday, and I really, really once again loved it, and this is why I was kind of, wanting to make this review because of how good it was, of how good, how positive the experience was. I absolutely enjoyed the heck out of it. This movie, The Blair Witch Project, is one of a kind, and definitely very simple in the way it is shot, but really, really good. Also, I didn't mention it, but the scenes in the woods is just so beautiful. There's a stream at some point, a creek, and the landscape is so beautiful, right? The big trees stretching up for very high, many feet up. It's so good. It's so good, and everything is so good. But the fear in this movie is definitely real, and the scenes at night are so, scary. And I have to say it that the scenes at night in this movie are just scenes that you want to see end, right? You want it to be daytime again, right? Especially there's a scene I thought it was kind of funny where it was like, "What time is it? Tell me it's 5 o'clock or something." And she was like, "It's 3." And he was like, "No way," not in so many words, but something like this. He kind of, freaked out. But yeah, the scenes at night in this movie are terrifying, especially something involving children in there. It is terrifying. It is terrifying. The Blair Witch Project is definitely such a good horror film, such a powerful one, such a terrifying film. And I've watched it many, many times, and I still love it to this day. I think that it is definitely a must for any horror movie fan who hasn't watched it yet. Just go ahead and watch it and tell us how you feel about it, because this is definitely a film that I believe deserves much more recognition, especially in light of today's, trash. We have horror movies that aren't even scary anymore. But this the 90s, the late 90s, the early 2000s were the golden age of scary films. So the Blair Witch Project is definitely one of the classics, one of the best horror films of all time. And if you haven't watched it, or you haven't, you don't really know whether you would like to or not, then you should definitely give it a try, because I'm sure that you won't be disappointed. It has everything that you would expect in a horror film. It has jump scares, it has scary scenes, scary imagery as well. But the real fear in this movie is very psychological, as I said. The fact that they won't be able to get out of the woods, and that, they're going in circles, and the fact that they're still trying, despite all of that, to remain, kind of to stick together. This whole notion of friendship, growing friendship that they try to maintain. They try to keep their wits at some point. Even something is suggested like that by one of the characters, that they keep their wits. I thought that this was pretty good. Because this is when one has to stick together. The people that are in it, that are in this kind of situation, to remain, as a single unit. I really, really like that, a lot. And the characters are so good, especially they're so, convincing in what they're doing. So we have Heather, who I thought was pretty good, as our main character, who, yes, I really liked her as a main character, even though she, kind of really, really royally messed up. Then we have Josh, who is pretty good too, who is kind of, funny. He cracks jokes here and there, cracks up jokes. So I thought that he was okay. I liked him as well. And we have Mike, who is also, a really good character as well, who is more of he's also kind of fun as well. And I kind of like the friendship between the three of them, the fact that they're trying their level best to, work together, cooperate. So this was pretty good. But what happens in this film is really, really, terrifying and blood-curdling as well. There are going to be some really scary scenes with mournful screams, mournful cries, blood-curdling ones. and really terrifying, scenery, imagery. So really, really love this film. So this is the Blair Witch Project for you about my little review, my 2 cents on it. So if I were to rate this movie on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd definitely give it a solid 10 out of 10. It's excellent. It's really well made from beginning to finish. So 10 out of 10 is excellent. So this is pretty much it from me for my review of it. What about you folks? What did you think about the Blair Witch Project? Did you like it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next review. In the meantime, folks, stay safe. Goodbye. Take care. This is Horror Town signing off. 10 out of 10 once again.